All right, good morning folks. Thanks everyone in the ED for what you do. I'm going to go over the scopes, how we care for them, how we clean them, and etc. We're in room 22 where you'll find the only scope we have that has just a single light source. This is the only light source it plugs into, and it's the only scope we do not have suction for. You should always find it in here. It should be always clean. When you see it, always double check to make sure somebody didn't put a dirty scope away. Then the other thing is if you take it out of this room, you need to also please sign it out on the board where you took it, where it went at all times so we can track these down. Just to let you know, these scopes, most of them are $30,000+ a piece. So for this one, if you're going to take it out of the room or anywhere else, this is the light source. This is the only scope that uses this light source. You have to plug it in. Next thing that you can do is take this with the scope wherever you're going, and once you get it there, you can go ahead, unravel it, and plug it in here. How will you know? You turn it on, turn it all the way to bright, and you should see a light. That's how you know you've got power. You shut it off, your light will go out. And you'll hear your light source too. If for some reason you don't have a light come on, you know you've got everything on, then that'll be something that you're going to have to go to sterile processing with, or let the doc see if they can troubleshoot it. The other thing on these scopes, as we all know, they have to be cleaned every week if they haven't been. So I always look at your expiration. This is the expiration date that it cannot be used after that. Every 7 days they have to be cleaned down in sterile processing. If you use the scope, you're going to go ahead and take this, peel off the clean label, and then you're going to pull this. Never should our scopes, like if you're going to set it on the counter or something, they always need to be stored in these tubes. So if it's now been used, the doctor took it out, we used it, you're going to pull the clean label off, put it back in the same tube. All right, so we talked about the cleaning process. We're in the supply room. Right here, above your mask, below your IV kits is where you find the first step. Every scope gets cleaned the same with this, and I'll tell you more about the suction scopes, but this one does not have suction. So what you do with this, come and get this, take it to your room. Do not bring your dirty scopes in here. Take it to your room. We're going to go ahead and open this, and there's a little pad in here. Squeeze out your pad, and you can read it. If you can't remember, read the directions. It says right on it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to wipe it down with the green side and then the white side. So the scopes, we wipe them down the green side, the white side, and then we go ahead and put them back in these. We do not put the scopes in these boxes. Only the C-Max stylets and the actual blades get put in the boxes. So now what we got to do, we got to sign it out. All right, so we are just getting off the elevator by the purple pod now. We're in the basement in case you don't know where sterile processing is. Just go ahead and follow me. We're going to go ahead and we're taking this now because it's dirty or expired to sterile processing. On the right, supply distribution's on the left. You'll have to use your badge. If it's on the weekend, they might not be anywhere to be had. You can put your hand here and this door will still open up. All right, just to let you know that. So just as a reminder, you guys, these blue tags, always, if they're expired, just write expired on the back. If you've used them on a patient, we need to have a patient sticker put on this tag, and it goes right here off the scope into this box. All right, so all blue tags, these are considered the blue tags. Every scope that comes down here should have a blue tag, and it must go in here. If you don't have one, walk it back down to sterile supply. Take it down here. You can hit this doorbell. Press this. Absolutely nothing that's clean goes across this door. So your pre-intubation boxes do not go in here. So you come in here and you set it on this shelf, and that's where you will leave it. All right? Okay, so I noticed this morning we're missing one of our scopes. The first thing you do is either call them or walk on down Sterile goods only. So these are sterile items. Your CMAC blades you come to get will be sitting here in a clean box. Here is a scope. Look at it and make sure that it's a scope that is from us, all right? Make sure the expiration date's further than today, obviously. And then look at your scope serial numbers. Write them down if you have to before you come down, all right? And it says it's clean, so we know this is ours. Now we will take that back upstairs. When you pick it up, after being cleaned, it should also have a blue tag, but it should not have anything on the back. And this one, they're marking ER, so we also know that that's ours. But when you get it back upstairs, we'll show you where the serial number of the scope is so you can compare, because we should not have different serial numbers. They should all match up. If they don't, consult your charge nurse, and we have to figure that out. All right, so when you bring it back now, you're going to sign it back in, and when you take it down, you have already written down the serial number. Make sure your serial numbers match and check that specific one off. If it's a stylet, you're going to check off to make sure that stylet is checked off when you bring it back. So now we have it, we're going to put it away. All right, so now we're going to check our numbers here. 254303. Here is your serial number, and here is your serial number. And those both match, so we know this is where this scope goes. And that's why you don't have to know anything about where the scopes go. As long as you check here or in the back hallway, as long as this matches, then you're good. And that goes in here, and you sign it back in on here also. This is what we call our CMAC cart. The doctor says, I want the CMAC cart and I want the scope off the CMAC cart. So you'll just take this whole thing with you to the room you're going to. This whole cart was $50,000 plus. So we need to take really good care of it. We're in a room. We're going to go ahead and get our stuff ready here. I always go ahead and plug it in regardless. You never know what you're getting into. So we have a couple different suctions. When you're using the actual CMAC here, you need to get out of the cart here the actual CMAC suction, because it goes up to 300, and that's the reason you have to have it, because it provides higher suction. So you're going to take these out, but if you look at these two are very, very similar, but they're not the same. This one only goes up to about 200, this one goes up to 300 and has a max. That's what you want for your CMAC actual Karl Storz endoscope. So make sure you have the right one. Then you go ahead and just take one out. Hook it up just like you would in any other suction. Make sure you got it ready to go. Turn it up to the 300, and then you're going to go ahead and have suction ready to go for your scope. Okay, so now we need to prepare the scope for the doc to use the suction. This one does have suction. As we said before, the only one that doesn't is room 22. So always look to make sure the tube says it's clean, that someone didn't put a dirty scope back on the cart. That would be horrible. A couple other things to notice about these scopes. Here's your blue tag we talked about. So you're going to go ahead and take that off. Always when you take it off in a room, put the patient sticker has to be on this, because when we take it down to get cleaned, it has to have a patient sticker on it. Unless it's just that it's expired, then you're going to take it down and do like we did before. So one big deal on these is your serial number. Right here, it's very, very small. The serial number on this one is 32397. Evidently, Sterile Processing told me that if a patient bites this actual Karl Storz, frequently they get replaced from the company. So make sure if you have a different serial number that you immediately tell somebody, and we're going to contact Sterile Processing too, to have them let us know if these serial numbers change, because otherwise it's going to be hard to track them. And we always want ours back. We should always have the ER on it in the red sticker. And if we're getting new equipment, we should also have that. Another thing you need to do with these, because they're probably going to use suction on these, is there's a couple things. One is you need to hook in these. Your scope supplies are going to be in here, second drawer. And the next time you have nothing better to do, but if you restock this, there's a check-by-check list. What drawer, what is in each drawer, and the actual supply numbers. So the part number for these are on the packages, and when I did this, you'll see it in the PowerPoint. These are your part numbers. And we'll show you in the supply room where you get these to restock if you're ever short. So, first thing we'll do is you will go ahead and open this up. you're going to lock this in. It just sets in here basically, and it just locks in. And this is like your valve to hook your suction tube. That's all that is, no big deal. You can only put it in one way. The next thing you're gonna do so that they can shoot saline in to flush the tube is you just stick this in here is all you do. Snaps in, and you can close it. So if you ever wonder what these special 20 cc quick tip syringes are for, when the docs, they'll want saline, sterile saline, they'll draw it up, and basically what they'll do is take this cap off, they'll go ahead and inject in here to go ahead and clean the scope with, okay? So that's what they're going to do there. And then they're gonna hit suction. I don't have that on there quite tight. There we go. It doesn't fit flat like I wanted it to, that's just the way the scope is. So if you're like me, it's not gonna fit flat like I said. All right, so the next thing we have to do is connect the scope and leave it in here. We've already had the patient's room, so make sure you take the clean and make it dirty. So we already are going to go ahead and do this. And make sure, if you have problems like I do, it's not wanting to come off very easy. All right, so clean, now becomes dirty because we've had it in the patient room. Anytime we carry it anywhere at all, we should always have it in this tube though. So now what I'm gonna do is hook it up. Do not, please do not, hook it up on the side if at all possible. When I say that, especially when you're transporting the CMAC part somewhere, don't hook it up here if at all possible, because what's happening is somebody will go through the doorway and they're going to knock this off, and this is thousands and thousands of dollars. So, and why they have to have it hooked up is they want to see the camera where they're going. So on the back here, go ahead and just unhook. All this is for the CMAC blade. They're not going to use that. You just pull it straight out, line up your arrows, and then plug in your scope straight and line it up. The only time you use both of them is if they were using it for intubation, then you would have to. But as soon as you're done with this, then I would leave your blade hooked up here to your light source, and then go ahead and put your scope over here just in case they want to have it emergently ready to go. So once you're done, so now we can go ahead and they can use their scope. You're going to turn it on for them. Your intensivists are going to know, like Dr. Goganini and those guys are going to know how to use it. We're probably assisting our ER docs probably more than anybody. So go ahead and here's your power button. And you can see now that I've got power because I've got light on my scope. All right, so they're going to do this. They're going to pull it out. You're going to get rid of the rubber band. That's being a problem here. And you're not going to set it on the bed. You're going to always put it in the little thing, the tube. All right, so the docs may want some Lubidoo or they may not. All right, next thing you're going to do is hook it up to suction for them, because that's how they're going to keep their visual screen clear. All right, so if they want to do suction, they're going to be pushing on this. If you want to record the whole thing, a little extra trivia, you can hit this button and you can record whatever they're doing. They won't know that, but we do. Anyway, that's trivia. Don't worry about it. This here little button moves the light around for them, how they want to look and everything. And they got their scope done now, and they're looking at my scissors that somebody swallowed or chewed up, and now they found it. And let's say now they're done. All right, so now in between they flushed it with saline a couple times. And they say, I'm done, thank you for all your assistance in this matter. All right, first thing you do is shut it off. Leave your suction hook up, because now we're going to go to the utility room and we're going to clean out the actual scope. We're going to open our first step. We found in there. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull, we're going to make a mess. Don't do it on your cart. You're going to get wet on it and then we get these big problems. First side is always green first. You're going to wipe it down. And then you're going to turn it over, wipe it again, throw this away. And the last thing you're going to do then is you're going to suction your scope with every bit that's left in here, okay? So you're going to clean as much as is in there all the way through the scope, because what this is it's cleaning out the scope itself. Okay, once it's all done, finish every last bit, then you go ahead, say it's all done, then you can go ahead, put it back in your tube. This might even be a two-man job the way I'm acting here. And you can disconnect your suction because you're done with that now. Discard that like you normally would. Put your scope back in. And now what we need to do is disconnect again. And actually hang on to it up here, not here. That will be wound up. And take your, don't cut your thing like I did, because you're going to need that. Not really. All right, so now we got to make sure our glue tag goes with us. All right, and now we're going down to sterile processing again, because this has to get cleaned. We're going to always transport it in here. We have it marked dirty, and we have our patient label on our glue tag. All right, so now we're going to get rid of and put this, because this is our C-Max suction, cannot stay in the room. We're going to go ahead and we're going to wipe it down with our caddy wipes, and that is going to go back in here where it says on the log what we need. All right, this stuff is going to discard it just like you would any other kind of suction material, and hook your suctions back up. And make sure on these, you guys, when you hook up suction, test them. Make sure frequently this ortho port is left open so you don't have suction. When you're setting up for the dock stuff, make sure, and even if you're just resupplying stuff to the rooms, make sure you test your suction, because suction is emergency equipment. Connect our light source for our C-Mac again. So we're going to plug it back in here. Arrow to arrow, turn it around, it's ready to go. We have our light source ready to go. And now we're going to inventory our cart. So we're going to go step by step. On these blades, if you guys don't know this, which a lot of you would have no reason to know this, if you look on your blades, it will tell you what blade you're working with. So if you look here, it'll tell you it's a Karl Storz blade. And the 4 Max, a Mac means it's a curved blade, all right? These don't say on them that they're 4s. These, I don't think this one does too either. I thought one of them did. So a 3 Mac is smaller, 4 is bigger than a 3. D blade, the D blade always goes in the bottom drawer, and it says D blade. So something specific about the D blade, it gets its own drawer. It's a big dollar item. This is the D blade stylet, folks. These are $448 a piece, and we have lost several of them, I'm sad to say. You will see the flight crew or whoever's intubating use these with all different kinds of blades besides just the D blade, but that is really specific for the D blades, so we have to have them. So don't let anybody throw them away. The other thing is, when we get them, we have a red tag that says ER. Anything that has an ER tag on it, do not throw it away. And if there's any question about something, if it should be thrown away or shouldn't be thrown away, ask somebody, ask the charge nurse. Our charge nurses are very experienced and they should know. So we aren't throwing things away. There's no harm in asking. It's the people that don't ask. So that will always be in the bottom. So the top, we should have 5 blades. 1, 2, and they should all be in a little baggie because they're all clean. 3, here we go. 4, 5. We should have 3 curves and 2 straights. The straights are usually the PEDs, and if you notice, every one of them should have ER on it. And they do. So we know those are our specific blades. These little tags can be thrown away. That just says that they've been sterilized and cleaned good. So, all right, the next thing we should have is, we got our blades. We have 2 20 milliliter slip tip syringes. We have 2, and these are also in the supply room. We'll go there next and show you where all this stuff I used is all pretty much together. These are 3 Boddicker disposable suctions. These are only for the C-Mac blades. And actually, as you see, no one has used those yet. So we use our own suctions. We've got good suction equipment. So all 5, we have everything on the top drawer, all 5 blades are here. We're looking good there. Second drawer, we have our suction. We should have 2 CMAC cleaning caps. So we have 2 CMAC cleaning caps. These would be the cleaning caps. These should never leave the department. They're extras. When we had our old Glasgow, for you oldies that are here, this is what we lost. This is what we couldn't clean them with. So we ended up having to buy a new CMAC here. So don't let them go anywhere. The next thing is the suction tubing. This is our regular suction tubing we have on the wall suction that you always replace. The next thing is a 4 gigabyte drive. Just because I didn't know what else to do with it, I left it in here. Let's leave it in here. It's right there. We have 2 sets of key rings. They stay in here. Some people actually lock their stuff. If we have an emergency, the last thing I want is something locked. A specimen trap. This is for people that they actually can use the endoscope and actually get secretions and suction them out. Just like you can in an endotracheal tube. 3 suction valves for the endoscope. Okay, these are the suction valves. We should have 3 of them. 1, 2, and actually I used 1, so I will be replacing. We have 3. Okay, so how do I know I have the right stuff? It is special order. This CMAC stuff is big dollars. So what you do is match your numbers. 11301 CE1. So that's how you know you have the right thing. If your numbers don't match up, there's a problem. The next thing is the lip valve. That's what you inject the saline through. So these numbers should also match up. 11301 CA. So it's the part numbers we're going off of. And then the suction head we have right here. So already, just doing a little brief check here, we have more than we're supposed to have in here. So you guys, more is not always better, especially in this situation. Please go by what is inventory. All right, so I'm going to put these all back. The next thing is the light source. The only time you're going to use a light source is if you're just using disposable blades. We have 3 4s, just like we do with the, and they're all Macintosh, so they're all curved blades, and then we do have the D blade that also is disposable. These are very, very expensive. We don't use these unless we run out of everything else, and they are also restocked from the supply room also. So you won't see these used very well, and for people that have used them, say they don't work as well as the actual metal blades. So, but that's where they are. In the bottom is where your D blade is. And once again, it says D blade. So anytime you're returning that one, that is going to be in the bottom drawer or the 4th drawer. Now, stylets. Let's talk about stylets. Your stylets should always be in the very bottom drawer in here. This is how they should be located, all right? When you look at stylets, we traditionally have 1 colored handle. Now for you oldies, we used to have the glide scopes. These are from the glide scopes. Once again, it has ER and a red tag on it. That means we don't throw this stuff away. They could be black. Some are blue and some are black. But we should have 1 of these, and we should have 1 of these wire ones. These wire ones, I know specifically, are $448 a piece. Last check. We've thrown, someone has thrown, I don't know if it's us or Sterile Processing folks, who's throwing them away, but somebody is, so we should have 1 of them. Once again, it has ER in red on it. So anything like this needs to go to Sterile Processing. If you don't know, please, please ask. That's all we're asking. So there should always be 1 of each of those down there too. 3rd drawer is where we have the extra 1 4 and 1 3 for your disposables and your light source. And then we have the 3 hemostats also that are on our checkoff list there. If we happen to use the disposable blades, you guys, there's alcohol in the alcove utility room. You just take a sterile 4x4, alcohol it up, and wipe this down a couple times with 2 sterile 4x4s and the alcohol saturated. Let it dry, and then you put it back in here. Be careful. This thing is very, very expensive too. So that we aren't ramming and jamming and twisting and breaking that. So I know we have a very vicious environment, and we gotta be careful with stuff. So as you guys saw when we hooked up our scope and prepared it, we used these 2 items. We're in our supply room here, right by the gold pod. So the suction valve is right here. All right, so you used 1, so we're going to replace 1. Match up your numbers. You'll put that back on the cart where it belongs. The other thing we took off was the actual cap. where you inject, so this part, and once again you're going to match up your part number. The third thing we used was that 20 cc slip tip syringe. I don't know if you guys can see it, but back here's a box, and here's the slip tips. These can never be mixed with the other ones because they're good for absolutely nothing else. Alright folks, so if you're looking for the Karl Storz endoscope or any of our emergency airway stuff, it's going to be around room 2, behind room 2 and 3 in the gold pod. We're in the back hallway here. This is our emergency airway card. Every intubation we should be having that present, alright? Here's your 2 emergency scopes. We already went through the Karl Storz one, so now I'm going to go through our scopes here. So, we're going to pull out a scope, and the doctor may or may not have a preference. These are pretty much the same, alright? So the first thing you're going to do when you get your scope up is you're going to go to your room and you're going to set it up. And for training purposes right now, we're just going to do it here. So once again, once you take it to the room, you peel the clean label off and you make it dirty. To hook up, you're going to need some tools to hook this to suction. And these both have suction. Right here is a nice little bag, and this is where you're going to find your light source, and you should find your suction here, and I don't see my suction port. Let's work with the light source first, okay? Well, I'm going to check, and we have no battery, but lo and behold, we have an extra battery, which works out nicely. And there's another battery in there. So if you use a battery, once again, email and let the charge nurse know you took it. So, where do these go? It's only one place it can go. It hooks on here, and if you look at it really closely, which is hard to do, you see red there and you see red over here. It just screws on there, is all you do, alright? The next thing you need to do is, I like to check my light, so just turn it. If it doesn't go one way, go to the other way, and check your light, and we have light. So we know the scope is on, and then just shut it off while you're waiting. Now our next problem is we don't have the suction port. We only have one light source and one suction port for both scopes. So the first thing I usually do is look at your other scope here, because this is the only one, yep, and there it is. This is the only other one that uses this same suction port. So now we got to get it out of there somehow. There we go. Put your clean scope back that you're not going to use, because we don't want to get them both dirty. And this, pretty easy. It just drops in there and it's ready to go. Okay? And then this is where you hook up your suction off the wall, and these can use wall suction. Alright? The docs are going to use this as their trigger. Your wall tubing is going to go here, and ask them what they want it set at. Most will have it as high as it'll go. And there's no fail. You can't put it in wrong. Alright? The syringe to inject through is right here. Alright, that's where they're going to use it. Serial number on here, if we haven't covered, is right here. Serial numbers on these scopes are a big deal because you don't know where you put them unless you look at the serial number to make sure they're in the right place at the right cart. Same thing, after you're done, you're going to go ahead and use the cleaning supplies. You use the green first, use the white side second, and then you keep it hooked up to your wall suction in your room, and you're going to suck every bit out of that little pocket, and then put it back in the tube, and you're going to go back down sterile processing again with these dirty tubes, with the actual dirty scope. Alright, so we did check with sterile processing. These here stay, your suction port on these two scopes off the emergency airway cart always come down with the actual scope. The light source that we had hooked on here does not. It stays in the unit on the cart in the little orange bag, which is attached to the airway cart. So this never comes down. But the suction port has to come down to sterile processing to be cleaned, and when you pick it up, we should be signing that out, and we should be getting that back with it because we only have one. So make sure that if you check when you go back up, if it said it had a suction port, make sure if these scopes come down, most likely they should have came down with a suction port, that we get that back because we only have one. Alright, so we got down sterile processing No one came to the door, all right? So we have our blue tag, blue because it's blue. You put the patient sticker on the back that you used it on, you go ahead, you put this in here, and now we go ahead, it's dirty, only dirty items. Only dirty items go through this double door, and they always go on to the cart that's not there. Okay? And if they weren't there, we're going to go back up and leave them a message, or we're going to call back down and say, hey, we left you one of our scopes that needs to be cleaned right away because it's emergency equipment in the ER. Now, you come back and they call you and say, Secretary says your scope is ready. Your sterile, clean scope is always going to be in here. Is where you're going to find it. You're going to pick it up here. Make sure you've got a blue tag on it. And if you want to save yourself a few steps, make sure the serial number on the blue tag matches the blue tag. All right? If you're going to pick up clean, sterilized CMAC blades, they're going to be sitting here in our white clean bin. And you're going to go ahead and take that with you too. And the dirty one will be sitting around here too. That both bins should be with it. Alright, so you've been asked to bring the intubation box down. The intubation box are almost always completely clean. The only thing that we use on them usually are the actual disposable stylets and actually an endotracheal tube. If they ask you to bring it down because it's been broke open, the actual lock is off, you're going to bring this probably 98% of the time right here, and you're going to leave it because everything is clean in there. If someone did use a regular handle and a blade out of here and that's dirty, then you take that, and that's why we have a little baggie in there that says soiled, and you will take that and bring that over here. Once again, only dirty stuff. And you don't need to let anybody know you brought that down. Set it on the cart because it's dirty. Come back out, and you're done with that. Okay, so now we brought our dirty one down. You need to bring one back up. Let me show you where we go. We go through this only door to the left here. Come in here. Or this closet, and you have a choice. Usually there's the adult, pediatric, and the infant, but we prefer to have just our big ones. And it says adult on it, unless you are restocking the pediatric cart, which we only have one emergency pediatric cart. You will always want this big one because this has all the pediatrics as well as the adults. So never should we be using just adult stuff for the pediatric cart. So now you'll take this back up, give it to whoever's restocking your crash carts. You know it's clean because it has the red lock.